here. LinkedIn. There she is. Look at this.
Yes, I'm here. How are you doing? Okay, horns are okay.
All good.
Super, fantastic. Oh my God, our Christmas stream. How exciting is that?
I know. Let me just turn on the echo cancellation. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're online. I think we're online on YouTube. I don't know if we're online on LinkedIn. Work out. I'll tell you one thing. LinkedIn is just like the worst when it comes to like LinkedIn Lives. I don't actually think they're very good. Like the actual solution. Like I've gone to so many LinkedIn Lives where it almost feels like people don't even know how to turn on the stream, and they end up with people complaining in the comments and stuff.
I was doing one from Italy when we were driving, and occasionally the app just crashed. It was awesome for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just see if I can sort out LinkedIn. It says that it's past the scheduled time, which is true, but I should be streaming through this StreamYard application. Destinations, right. Fine, I want to turn this one on. Save changes. Come on, you can stream. Why can't you stream? I mean, we could just get people to come to YouTube, but...
stream like it's 2010.
I don't know what it is with LinkedIn. It's just not... I mean, I'm hoping not to complain about LinkedIn too much today, but it's just there's something wrong with with LinkedIn. Right, let me try this again. Let me just try the LinkedIn side. I don't even know if anyone's joined us. Oh, there we are. We are live. Are we?
Yay!
Go live. Yes, thank God. Go live. This may take a few seconds. And so hopefully now I'm just checking it out. Oh, I got a notification. It's 15:03, but it says it hadn't started. Yeah, I know. This is the kind of message that you get as soon as you do a LinkedIn Live event. Loads of people complaining it hasn't started yet. Should be started now.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. That means that we have some audience.
That means you have one person. We've got one person that wants to come and see us. So how are you? Tell me how you are.
Hey, very nice, very nice. We just finished the strategy planning sessions, which were amazing, and off to Budapest tomorrow. How about you?
Going to Budapest. Well, we're staying at home, so we're not going anywhere, and that's just the way I like it. I've had enough of seeing people in 2024, so now it's just going to be me and my family. I have to still see them, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've got a collection of beers. I'm trying to mix up non-alcoholic and alcoholic beers this Christmas as well, so that I'm not just sitting there asleep at 2:00 in the afternoon every day. So we shall see. What are you doing in Budapest?
Yeah, so in Budapest, we are just like taking a little bit of a city tour because it's so nicely decorated. We are going on a boat. We are going to enjoy the restaurants a little bit. And guess what? We are going to do a lot of art shows, which I'm so excited for. Have no idea what to expect, but I need a little bit of a break. So this is something which is very close to Slovenia and kind of like the best choice so far.
Well, there you go. See, I've not got anything so exciting, but it's going to be fine. Let me just see comments and stuff. We appear to be live. You've got your lovely antlers on. We've got some people watching, so I guess let's talk about some things. I don't know if we want to keep this music on throughout. I've got various free Christmas tunes. So we got this one. We've got this one. Turn it up a little bit. It's a nice little accompaniment. People, I've got my Christmas beer.
The fireplace right now, so nice.
I need to get like a bowl of chestnuts and start to eat the chestnuts as well. What's a typical Slovenian Christmas look like? That's a good question to start with.
Oh, very interesting. So in Slavic countries, we have like kind of a rolled pastry, which is called potica, and it's filled with walnuts and a bunch of other things, and has a little bit of rum to it because we're Slavic. Everything we do contains some sort of form of alcohol. So that's it. How about the puddings in the UK? What type of pudding are you having this Christmas?
Well, this is an interesting one because I'm very partial to Christmas pudding, which I don't know if you've ever seen Christmas pudding. It's like this dense brown blob with raisins and other. I mean, I don't even really know what they have in them, but you cook them and you can have them with like rum or you can, cream or whatever like that. But I'm quite partial to those, but not everyone is. A bit of an acquired taste. But there's also mince pies. I mean, everyone loves a mince pie. I don't know if you have mince pies over there. Like, just it's not mince as in meat. That would be disgusting. But like just fruit and stuff in a little pastry pie. So I'm sure we've got a bunch of those, plus all the chocolates in the world.
Yeah, my
So,
husband has the
but
best answer to this. So it's like he's, let's say, a very, very, very sweet person, and he's all the time saying like, my best Christmas desserts are my mom's cookies. How can you beat that?
are you trying to beat that?
No, I make a very lousy cook, so we just keep her on the golden pedestal. That's it.
Well, speaking about cooking, I guess, and yeah, if we're talking about kind of a retrospective on 2024 and also going into 2025, I guess, what have you been cooking up over 2024, and how did it taste?
Yeah, fantastic. So we met approximately 1 year ago. And what is super, super, super interesting is that you were kind of one of the first people that gave me a shot for my new book, right? And I didn't have much to show for back then, but a year in, I do, which is very exciting. So I launched in November last year, and ever since I had like this wacko plan that Amazon business, this is it. Little did I know that Amazon takes 60% of commission. Whoops. So I had to pivot into a different business model in January and February. We built like our own value ladder, so our own portfolio of digital products. And luckily, things were much better after we invested in our platform. Later on, there was something else which was super, super, super interesting in terms of our product marketing. So my first assumption was that this range of products is going to be super interesting for founders, right? For, let's say, technology founders, because this is my bubble that I'm coming from. But during this journey, I met so many awesome product managers, product marketers, and just like all sort of different other people who are interested in the discipline. So this year, I am doubling down on just like how it is important to work together in go-to-market teams, which is something that I didn't envision from the get-go, because before I was just like, I'm a founder, I should be running GTM. But right now, I think that I have a much, much, much better perspective. And there was just like another intellectual, let's say, breakthrough that I have had. So you know that oftentimes, like, one of the most interesting parts of my science is go-to-market motions, meaning predictable and scalable ways how to get customers. And predictable and scalable kind of is pre-assumed that you already know what you're doing. But when you are starting out, that's not always the case, right? So I literally introduced another concept, which is called go-to-market actions. In very simple words, do whatever it takes to get some customers in before it's like nice and steady and predictable. So all the cool things that we are doing during launches, for example. Hey, but how about you? You are a corporate trainer now, huh?
Well, a little bit. I mean, I like to sometimes say to people that I've kind of proving myself to be like the worst product person ever because I can't prioritize. I keep doing lots of different things, and I guess you could argue that that makes me somewhat more entrepreneurial. Like kind of get my trying to build my best product market fit and pivoting and all of those things. So yeah, I've got some corporate training coming up in the new year now. So working with a big retailer in the UK to help up level some of their product teams.
Awesome.
I've got some smaller training stuff and group sessions and stuff alongside the coaching that I'm doing. But one of the things, actually, just to loop back to what you were saying, is this idea about, for example, the stuff that you're building is focused on early founders, but you're finding a lot of love from product people, which I definitely want to come back to. But one of the things that I've been working on this year as well is at least some of my time is spent with a VC accelerator called
Oh,
Ultra
nice.
VC, which is based in Cyprus. They're a kind of a tech for good, future of work type VC. So they invest in a lot of great companies. They've got like LGBT social networks and support for elders and language learning for expatriates and international expansion, matching up for teams and stuff like that. So like they're building, or their portfolio building lots of cool things. And I got involved in the accelerator. It's the first time that I've been involved in the accelerator. And one of the things that I found, kind of to turn your thing on its head, is like there's almost this like subtle eye roll that you get when you get introduced to an early founder as a product person, because they're like, oh well, product people, we don't need product people, because product people are for like when we're bigger. Like we're still the founders, we don't need product people to tell us anything. But it becomes very clear very quickly that, like what you're saying with this kind of the startup stuff going into product people, there's also a lot of product stuff that can and should go back into early founders around sort of value proposition definition and differentiation and prioritization about the next thing or the next experiment to try, and all those sorts of things. So it's been fascinating kind of watching like your world bleed into the world of product managers more, but also the world of product, and I guess my world, bleeding more into the early sort of startup founders who haven't done any of this stuff before. They're being very instinctual, and a lot of the accelerator and VC sort of effort is around sort of getting them to get sales and getting them to get customers, but to try and bring a product lens on that early, rather than, as we've both spoken about before, like you get in there slightly too late when they've already made a bunch of decisions and it's kind of a bit costly to unpick them. So it's been quite fun working with early startups as well. So I've got like early startups, scale ups, and corporate, and I'm terrible at prioritizing. So I'm kind of serving all of them in different ways. So I've got like 3 different offers at the moment.
Yeah, no worries whatsoever. I mean, I'm all into this idea of product market fit as a cycle, right? So in order to really nail it, you need to align a couple of elements, such as ICP, that like your offer, your business model, your pricing, and nevertheless, like the channels, how you are introducing your stuff. And it comes in iteration, right? And an average company takes like 5 to 7 iteration in order to align everything. And whenever I feel like kind of a loser, I remembered that McDonald's started by selling hot dogs. Nokia started by selling soap. So we're just like living the journey. We're evolving, we're getting closer. And what really resonated when you were talking about, let's say, the intercept of our worlds, I did learn much more from product management managers than any other, let's say, discipline when I was writing the book. One of like the biggest breakthrough ideas that I've got was this value proposition compass, which maybe sounds like very basic to you, but like I come from this universe when people have been building something in their basement for 2 years, and then they give it to you and say, we need 10,000 users. Good luck. So just like coming into the equation sooner, it's super, super, super important. And there is another aspect of this idea that I'm quite fond of. So for decision making, imagine strategy as prioritization. So you're always limited in resources, and you are kind of prioritizing them against, let's say, what I like to believe are unlimited opportunities. So you are just like trying to make your best bets, right? And whenever you have to do the prioritization work, I mean, you guys are super much into the customer discovery and just like research and all the cool methods. I like to pre-sell, for example, right? So the ultimate, let's say, vote of confidence for me is who's paying for these products. And when I'm doing this type of decision making as a business owner, I would just like go and hatch, let's say, 3 strategic directions. And literally in Q4, I have been doing this. So there are a couple of very interesting opportunities. There were corporate workshops, so that was interesting, definitely to balance, especially in some regions that are super, super, super fast in evolving. Then the second one was AI and AI agents and co-pilots and everything cool going on in that space, which was intriguing, intellectually very intriguing for me. And the third one was, guess what? Doing more of what already works. And that's usually very boring for curious people like us. The good thing is bringing the most money. So yeah, I mean, we are always hedging, but I am trying to lean more and more towards the idea that we should be prioritizing at least like 70% of resources towards what is already verified, what's already working. And it's a daily struggle because I have shiny object syndrome.
Well, that's the thing when there's so much opportunity in the world, but it is a constant battle. And one of the things actually and without wishing to go too much on a tangent on this, like one of the things, I think it was Leah Taran that originally said this to me when I spoke to her on the podcast, this idea that there are certain types of work that you do, for example, for free, you do effectively on your own time to kind of just share stuff and give as much back as possible. But that one of the things that she's done, and I don't know, probably you've done, and I need to get better at, is saying no to the marginal stuff that, takes up a lot of time, very limited benefit to me. I don't want to make it all about me, but like, sometimes I have to feed the kids and stuff as well, right? So like trying to kind of balance out, and this is maybe something I'd recommend for anyone that's out there listening to this either now or later, and sort of struggling to work out how to spend their time and how much to sort of spend on content and how much to spend on paid stuff and how much to milk and how much to not, is like, just be very careful that whilst obviously there are lots of opportunities out there, you don't need to do literally all of them, because that's something like someone will be like, oh yeah, can you look at my book? Okay, yeah, sure. Now, oh, can you help me with like some job search stuff? Yeah, okay, kind of. I can help. Oh, can you help me with my startup idea? Like, you've got all these different things, and like you start to realize that after a while you're just being, just a lackey for a bunch of people rather than actually just helping in depth. I'm starting to get this idea of like depth. Like, there's a lot of people out there that are helping a lot of people like that deeply with like a very sort of shallow content. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing very, very sort of deep, but very narrow stuff, like just working with one person at a time or a couple of people at a time. I think both of those are really valid, but but they're different and people should see them as such.
Yeah.
What have you been...
Sorry, but I have a thought here, which is definitely worth expressing. So there is this lame motivational quote: you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. And I do think it starts with self-awareness, right? So my husband gave me the best advice possible. Whenever you say yes, you have to say no to something else. And it depends, and it is always evolving, because just like today, let's talk through 3 examples that I've gotten today. So there was this student from the Netherlands that wanted to interview me for his thesis. There was this entrepreneur from Berlin that needs like kind of guidance coaching for their AI product for the launch. And there was like this opportunity to do workshops in Cairo, right? And there were a couple of parameters that I can use for my decision making. So of course, like, I'm running a business here, not a charity yet. So I have to optimize for financial gains, of course. Then I have certain joy level and certain drive towards helping people that is kind of like, let's say, paying backwards. You know how it is. Other people have done good things for me in past, so I'm trying to give back the best I can. And then it's just like also my, let's say, level of energy, right? Because right now it's the end of the year, and I don't know if I look tired, but I am a little bit tired. I literally had to survive Black Friday, 5 of them for my clients too. So yeah, I'm taking a little bit time to just like recharge and relax. And even if you say no, you don't have to sound like an idiot for doing that, right? You can say it like, okay, right now it's not like a really great time for me. I'm totally in my maker mode. Or just like, look, I don't even know that much about this topic for your podcast. Why don't you go and try to interview somebody who will actually gain some benefits from being exposed towards that type of audience? So saying no doesn't have to be like a really bad thing. You just have to, let's say, be very clear on what your personal preferences and level of energies are at the moment. Because the bigger you get, the bigger opportunities get. And there is this awesome ratio that we use in advertising and content creation, which is 3:1. So at 3 touch points, you should be adding value. And you should be adding value, which is completely tailored towards your target audience and actually deliver something valuable to them. And then you have, let's say, a potential opportunity to ask for something. And I have experienced this during the holiday season so much, because in my world, like, Black Friday is super important. And everybody was like pushing really hard to make the best out of this season. Why? Because sometimes even up to 3/4 of yearly revenue in education world are done during Black Friday and just like Q4 holidays. And yeah, so right now in January, we have to regain a lot of goodwill so that it's not like, this lame perception that we are just like there punching offers at people, but is what it is. I mean, there are seasons in life and business. And whenever you are in this type of sales cycle, for example, if you just correlate this with fitness, right? January is going to be a big boom in fitness. In summer, people have given up and gone to beaches already. But right now, you just have to somehow follow the business rhythm as well. And I hope that this was presented in a clear way, that your capacity and your ability of no saying literally starts by being committed to your mission, knowing what is important to you, knowing how you will make these decisions.
So what's one thing then that you've said no to, or maybe like a type of work, like we're talking earlier about almost like ICPs, like a type of work or a type of client? Is there anything that you've in 2024 said goodbye to?
E-commerce. E-commerce, definitely, for two reasons. First, if you are doing B2B, you are doing B2B, and you shouldn't be talking about how to do app store optimizations and just like all sorts of gimmicks when it comes to cart abandonment sequences. E-commerce is a really fast forward world, right? It operates completely different than B2B. So I literally had to say no to a lot of e-com opportunities in order to double down on where I see that I can make the biggest impact possible. Because even this problem is so clear when it comes to positioning, right? And whenever I present our offers, people keep on asking me, is it like B2C or B2B? And eventually I had to make this decision. Why? Because I should be presenting relevant examples. And if you, for example, work in B2B enterprise and I'm pitching some sort of, I don't know, B2B cryptocurrency for payments, then you are not listening. And the narrower you can be, and I think this is going to be a big trend in 2025, especially with AI agents, the more vertical, more specialized you can be, the quicker you can deliver value added, and the more surgically are you able to do so.
Fair enough. We've got a question in the chat.
Cool.
Might as well get some of those things in.
From
David.
Listening.
Yeah, there's a few, 6 at the moment apparently, which is slightly less than I expected. But we'll come on to how LinkedIn reach has fallen apart in a minute, I guess. But yeah, so David Wong says, "What's a common mistake you find first-time founders making?"
Inability to focus, inability to choose. It's just like what we were discussing before. The first, let's say, symptom of it appears when it comes to ICP. And ICP is extremely difficult game to focus on, because whenever you are starting out, you are operating with extremely limited resources. Imagine if you had to go and develop like account-based marketing and sales programs for 13 different personas. It would be impossible. Your copywriters would just like live in a complete nightmare that one day I'm writing to truckers and the second day I'm writing to butchers. But nevertheless, this is so important. And the strategy that I've been so passionate about here is the beachhead strategy, meaning that you are selecting a narrow target audience, a narrow target market that fits 4 criteria. First, let's say that it has like a very apparent pain point, so it's like a problem that needs to be solving, not next year. Second, they need to display decent willingness to pay, especially if you don't have like tons of VC money to spend. The third one is that in terms of just like your proximity towards reaching them, that you have the knowledge, the empathy and market access, that your sales cycle will not be longer than your lifeline, right? So you need to have a realistic chance that you can win a significant proportion of that target market. And last but not least, this target market also needs to create case studies, testimonials, and references that will help you move up market later on. So this is the mechanism that I'm offering to my founders, how to do this prioritization. And Jason and I struggle with the exact same problem. I think it's very logical, because your vision is to help as many people as possible. Your vision is to just like change the world in a less pitchy way. So yeah, it's natural, but in order to be really big one day, you have to start small more often than not.
I think another common one, and this is something that we've been chatting a lot about in the kind of the VC world now that I've sort of dipped my toe into that a little bit more, is this desire to build a perfect solution that does everything way too soon. And that then obviously means that people are spending, and especially with tech founders as well, like people that maybe have some tech ability themselves, or maybe, God forbid, they're using like AI tools now to build the thing for them. And they just spend all of their time trying to make the app perfect without doing any of the things that you just said. So they end up just, I mean, I guess you could argue that it's not wasting time if it happens eventually, but all of the time that they're doing this and kind of locking themselves in the shed and doing all of the things on their own, they're not getting any feedback from the market. They're not getting any kind of feedback on the things that you've said that they need to get feedback on. They don't know if anyone wants to buy the thing. And they end up then, either running out of money or just like having almost to do like an emergency whatever to actually desperately try and get some people to buy it or to subscribe or whatever at the end, rather than trying to do that sooner, so that they're in a position where they can make a much more evidence-based directional sort of strategy versus like having to panic at the last minute. So I think that's a common thing as well. Like, and I guess more from the product side is like, don't spend all of your time building the perfect thing that does all of the things. It goes back to your beachhead strategy, and this is something I spoke to Andy Budd about. I don't know if you know Andy or read his book, The Growth Equation. I spoke to him on the podcast about this idea that, like, ultimately, and it goes to your beachhead thing as well, is this idea that, well, there's some people that care a lot about a certain thing that you can do for them. So go and do that for them, and then hopefully you'll get enough interest to then work out what you need to build around it, versus trying to build something for everyone, which then, as per the cliche, you end up building something or nothing for no one, because it's never going to satisfy everyone.
I love this story. Yeah, one of my collaborators in Substack literally described it with the concept of case study, and I evolved this idea a little bit further, inspired by Alex Hormozy, who's a horrible role model, but I'm addicted to his stuff. The thing is, one audience, one offer, 1 million, right? And I know it's a little bit of off metaphor, but it's literally this idea that first you just have to be narrow, and you have to repeat the same and the same and the same and the same thing all over again, so that you get better at this, that you are generating this critical mass of references. But Jason, let me throw in one question real quick, because this is something that I'm kind of thinking about a lot with my sort of AI builds at the moment. So I just launched shittiest chatbot ever in order to identify what would be like a good job. Thank you so much for your support. You supported it as a friend, not as a user. I know. But this build was just like to define what would be good use cases, right? Because for me, it was very hard to prioritize. And if I would be sending a survey to my people, like on LinkedIn and Substack, I could be ending up with something which is not even technologically feasible, or our team cannot do it, right? So I was kind of thinking, and I don't know if this is like a legit product management concept or not, but about minimal viable idea. So I just tested an essence of the product, right? And I didn't want to go and say, no, this is a use case that I'm very passionate about and I think everybody should have it. But I went and I just built a very simple, a very vanilla build, and based on the data. So far I have had approximately 400 people testing it with 5,000 questions. And right now we are just analyzing the data, what would be most frequent use cases to inform our future product development, because I could not decide. So I let the people decide.
Well, I think this is an interesting point, right? Because you sit there and you say, you do all of that initial definition and work out all your flows and all of the things that you should build and all of the things that the tool should do. Or you do basically what ChatGPT did, or OpenAI did originally, and they just release it and just see who does what. And I guess that's kind of similar to what you've done. This idea, look, let's just find out. And of course, there's no better way to understand if people want to use your thing than by giving them a chance to use your thing. Now, the danger, of course, then is that if it does so many different things well enough, that then you start to get so many demands from so many different directions that you can't possibly satisfy them all. However, at the same time, again, there's all this sort of product management and design thinking and all of the things that people talk about and all the discovery, going out and asking people, do the mum test and all of those things. It's yeah, cool. But again, the best way to get an idea about whether people are going to buy or even use your thing is to give them a thing to use. The problem, of course, is that traditionally that's been quite expensive to do, like to get to that point, to build the thing. The one of the good things about AI, and even some of the code generation stuff, which is still problematic for more complicated stuff, but for simpler stuff, there are so many tools out there now that can enable you to just throw something up and just see what people think of it. And when you're at the stage that you're at with this thing, effectively its own new little startup, well, there's no real downside. Like, you're not going to sink your company if it doesn't work, right? So this is the thing, like, it's all about the risk versus reward. Like, the reward you're going to get is that you're going to know whether this is a thing that you should be investing more time in based on the initial feedback that comes back, and the effort that you put into that. I'm sure it's not none, but you've not spent months on it, have you? You spent, I don't know, what, days, weeks? How long did you have to spend on it?
Hours.
Exactly. So like not even days.
Assets, of course. 1 year of creating assets because it was trained with my assets.
Yes. Well, this is a thing that bothers me as well, because a couple of years ago now, I was in conversation, like, so fairly early on in the AI hype cycle, or this AI hype cycle. I was talking to someone or a couple of people who were they were creating a startup that would effectively build like exactly what you just built, like a little like chatbot based on content.
Chat based or whatever, yeah.
But this, I think, was before that. But and then we're going to get Jason bot, and it was going to be something that you could add. It was going to be trained on all of my podcast transcripts. It's going to be trained on all of my writing, all of my LinkedIn posts, all of my tweets as they were at the time. And I thought, this is a cool idea, and like people could then pay. They could pay like a very small amount to have it kind of embedded in Slack, and they could ask it questions throughout the day. And thought that'd be really cool. And then like there was an upsell at the end of it, like if you can't get the answer that you want and you want to book time with Jason, you can spend whatever to have some actual time with Jason. I'm like, cool. But then they pivoted the bastards, and now that doesn't exist anymore. Now there's so many of these bots that it kind of feels like I'm a bit late to the party on that one. But that was my little story about why I don't have a bot, because I've got a lot of content, right? I've got 230 or so podcast episodes. I've got
I had
the stuff that I've written
from just like this year.
You had what, sorry?
I had 1 million characters.
Yeah, there you go. So like you sit there and you think, well, is that a missed opportunity? Obviously I could still do it, but now I look like I'm copying other people instead. So, I guess at the end of the day, it depends if it delivers value. So I'll probably still try and do it. But then it's just another focus problem though, right?
Yeah, but there is like a tremendous opportunity in just like you have a very nice audience, so very nice community. You like to call it our community, which I very much appreciate. So I do think that prompting is the modern day literacy. I cannot imagine, like today, I was just deciding on one of the launch dates for one of the new products in our portfolio. And I didn't know exactly when do people get salary in the US. So I asked a couple of my best friends, Perplexity, Grok, and GPT, and we agreed that it's going to be mid-January. We agreed.
Oh, there you go. So you've got your strategy. But how else are you using AI these days? Like, obviously, everyone's talking about AI, and I definitely want to talk about the future of AI as well. But I mean, you talk about Perplexity, you talk about Grok. I mean, why would one use Grok rather than other stuff? But
I do think that in GTM space, at least, like SDR, sales development thingies and business development thingies and all the boring sales work, like writing hello messages to people on LinkedIn, defining who from the ICP bucket liked your LinkedIn post, starting conversations with them, and all the other quirks that Jason over there does not enjoy very much. But these things like got super easy with the tools, with custom built agents. I am investing a little bit more in co-pilots at the moment, because I do think that just like I'm doing like still a bunch of monkey work, right? So like in terms of analytics, in terms of just like manually saying hi to people on LinkedIn and whatnot, I think that we are going to build amazing builds in Q1 to just like explore those types of opportunities, how to improve this. And last but not least, in terms of AI, I think that in terms of images, we are totally not there. right? But whenever it comes to, let's say, data and research analysis, and the newest like Gemini update from Google, it unlocked these amazing opportunities. So right now I use Claude for writing. Just like on Friday, I had to write recommendation letters for one of my designers that finished the project, and it was done in 10 minutes. Otherwise, I would be struggling like for an hour at least with recommendation letters. So that was good. Of course, I filled it with very loving and very like personal details. So it's a very nice one, but still like to beat the cold start, it was godsend. The other thing that I have to just like be so diligent about. So really now we are analyzing this initial data set from chat base, what people are interested in, right? And of course, I would use tools like ChatGPT in order to do the data crunching for me. I remember back in old days when we were like analyzing data survey for companies, we got like, I think 5,000 replies, and it was just like this shit load of data that we had to analyze. I hired somebody who studied psychology before, because those people from psychology, at least they know how to analyze surveys, and it took like 14 days in order to get decent results out, right? I'm not saying that analyzing it with ChatGPT is perfect, but at least it can give you early snippets of value cognition that makes things a little bit more fun than being trapped in the idea that you will spend 14 days segmenting data. So yeah, I do use it a lot, but I am trying to just like use it realistically in a way. I don't know, but like a lot of people don't know that you can literally like set up the temperature of AI, right? So how much hallucination and creativity can you allow? If you prefer it to be very factual, or just like something which is can be like super inspiring and let's say cognitive in their own terms. And I don't know, I'm just excited about this new field. At the beginning, I was just like a little bit cautious, right? So when I saw like ChatGPT exploding, I don't know, remembering IoT days, blockchain days, I was like, let's wait a little bit and see if it survives the hype. Well, the hype never ended. So I do think that it's just consolidating, and that right now, one of the biggest business opportunities, according to Greg Eisenberg, is literally for small companies to build vertical AI agents, and for bigger ones, like for SaaS, to just like develop business models that are paid per results, that are ultimately like value pricing. So this is something that will probably make 2025 a little bit more excited.
Is there anything you wouldn't use it for?
Yes. Of course, there are ethical limitations towards using this, and just like super creative tasks. So whenever it comes to Substack, this is my creative lighting. This is literally like my cognition, my way of interpreting the world and coming at peace with the reality as I'm perceiving it. This is like human written as well as edited. For proofreading, we use tools a little bit, but this is like still something which is super intimate and has, I think, a lot of added value. You can argue differently, but this is it. Then for, let's say, the other use case that I think would be terrible at, I don't know. Do you have an idea? Maybe building an atomic bomb, but
So far, that's not on my 2025 bucket list. But I think for me, the thing that I sometimes come out with, which sounds cleverer in my head, as most things do, than it probably does in reality. But this idea that LLMs are for inputs, not outputs. So this idea that, like, some of the stuff that you're talking about, like, so, like, for example, I'll very often use LLMs to summarize call recordings and stuff like that, so that I can do, like, again, I could go and read through all those myself, or I could just trust it to bring some of the stuff out. And
sorry to interrupt, but have you tried Phantom or Mitrecord?
I have not. I'm sure that we could try those at some point, but I'm very vanilla in a lot of my AI stuff at the moment. Like, I'm using ChatGPT. I was paying for Claude for a bit. I didn't really find it much. Like, I didn't find it better enough than ChatGPT to pay for both of them. Which, maybe that's because I was using it wrong. When obviously ChatGPT or OpenAI have been putting out a bunch of new features as well. So I'm kicking the tires for some of those as well. not really got into agentic stuff yet, but a lot of what I do is still fairly basic. Code generation, yes. I am a developer, or I have been a developer, was a developer for many years. So like I know how to fix the stuff that comes out of it. It's never perfect. And the more complicated the task, the more likely it is to disappoint you. I'm not as bullish on fully automated code generation anytime soon, to be honest. I just don't think it's going to get there. But I do feel that again, for all of this stuff, like, so a use case that I tried recently just to see if it worked was I've gotten quite bad at writing, like actually making the time to write stuff and like doing anything longer form. So I decided, well, look, whilst I'm drying from the shower or whatever, I'll just record myself onto my phone talking about the thing that I want to write a post about, just rambling away for 20 minutes talking about the thing, and then transcribing it, whacking it into ChatGPT and asking it to structure my thoughts into an actual structure, not then to just publish it. Good God, no. I mean, but I then would rewrite the thing, but at least in that structure, because you look at the structure, yeah, that structure makes sense. So I think for stuff like that, it can be incredibly helpful. But again, as an input, not an output, I don't want to sit there. I never want to be, hopefully, accused of like putting out like ChatGPT generated text and pretending that it's me, which a lot of people are doing now. And it reminds me as well, another thing, like one of the hero use cases I heard originally was from people like non-native English speakers using things like ChatGPT to try to make themselves sound more coherent in such and such a language. And I can certainly see the reason and the logic behind that. But then I start to think about, for example, recently I went to Lisbon for a work trip for this VC accelerator. And I mean, I don't speak Portuguese. I speak decent Spanish, but not really any Portuguese. And I got into the cab and said to the guy, like, do you speak English? He's like, no. So, do you speak Spanish? He's like, a bit. And obviously Spanish is very similar to Portuguese as well. And we ended up on the 25-minute trip into town having a really decent conversation about all things Lisbon in kind of broken Spanish, Portuguese. And obviously none of it was perfect. Like that, you would not use that as you wouldn't like transcribe that and say this is an amazing conversation. But the thing that made it perfect for me was the fact that these were two people communicating in their own voices. And this is the only thing that I think I'm sure there are reasons and specific use cases for non-native speakers to use a tool like this for like a resume or a cover letter or something like that.
For proofreading.
But I see zero utility really in using it, for example, for LinkedIn replies and stuff like that. I would rather someone go, I like post than like, what a fantastic post, blah, 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 because they, use an LLM to generate that text. Like for me, so much of communication is about communication. So yeah, I'm very much an input, not an output guy when it comes to LLMs.
Love it. The coding example you mentioned reminded me so much on something that is probably would be the last thing that I'm going to ever outsource. This is copywriting for sales pages. As we are investing a lot of assets into like meta advertising and demand generation, I still prefer to work with copywriters, especially direct response copywriters that are brilliantly good if you tone them down a little bit. But yeah, this is something which I definitely trust a human more than any type of chat generated thing is. But yeah, for outbound emails and for simple ad texts made to be broken with tremendous amount of iteration, we are AI assisted everything. This reminded me on what you're saying about one of your other favorite topics, which is LinkedIn. Lately, you have been quite grumpy about LinkedIn.
Yes, well, look, I mean, it's interesting because if I think back to when you and I first started talking, I think we were roughly equivalent in LinkedIn followership.
Oh, yeah.
Like, 26. I think I was probably on about 25. You were 27, 28. So, like, in the same ballpark.
30-ish.
And I also want to, caveat this by saying that, of course, these, you don't want to like chase vanity metrics for the sake of it. Like, there's actual the number of followers or connections or whatever isn't the only metric, and there's lots of other ways to be successful. And I know that you've since obviously smashed it up to about nearly 60,000 now, I think, or something that you're on, and I'm still languishing in the kind of the late 20s. And it does feel like something's changed, and lots of people are saying this. Now, I don't know if that's just that there's lots of grumpy people out there. And I actually was encouraged to put a support request in to LinkedIn the other day by someone who'd done it themselves previously, to ask if I'd basically been, blocked or shadow banned or put on some kind of shit list or something like that. And they sent me. So far they've kind of said no, it's all fine, and it gave me kind of a fairly canned response. And they sent me this PDF that's linked on their site about these are the best practices for LinkedIn posts. And then I looked at it and it's like, well, it's talking all about authentic conversation and building meaningful stuff. And all these things are like replying, and it's like, yeah, okay, I get this. But they LinkedIn have buttons on their site saying write with AI. They have automatic buttons underneath responses just to put canned responses in. And they have the audacity to say that they're prioritizing real conversations. And they're clearly also pushing, like with Facebook and other algorithmic feeds, they're pushing the stuff that gets the most clicks at people, which is fine. No objection to that. But the stuff that's getting the most clicks from people, I find these days, certainly the stuff that gets pushed at me, it's just rage bait or just completely like stuff that's just trying to game that algorithm. And it's like that frustrates me. But the thing that frustrates me the most is, and it's me and others that are complaining about it. Everyone is complaining that their reach is through the floor. They're not getting as many connections as they used to. They're not getting as many followers as they used to. They all get complaining about the fact that they post something and it doesn't get seen. I look at my own metrics, like even sharing this event. I would share this with like my LinkedIn followers, and it would go to a very tiny fraction of those people. And this is a LinkedIn live event. This is something that is using their platform. I posted a link to that original post and it got something like 300 views. And that's not even people, that's views. And this is a thing that's running on LinkedIn. I just don't understand how they promote content. But I guess to bounce it back to you, because you're being quite successful at the moment, like, how are you being successful?
One could argue. Now, initially, there are hard no's for me as well. So what I want to do is, I have been thinking so hard about what's going to be important in 2025. I discussed this with my grandfather, who's a woodworker. So yeah, this is something that personal updates and just like weird family coherent stories, this is a no-no for me because privacy. I mean, it's just like, for me, I live a private life, I live a semi-public life. And I mean, honestly, my dogs are cute. I have an Australian Shepherd and a rescue dog. But would you really benefit as a human being of seeing like pictures of my dogs? Negotiable. Maybe you're a cat person. So yeah, there are hard no's, absolutely. And all the automation. So my team is just like building this scraper. What we want to do is we want to create another mood board for best performing LinkedIn posts, just to observe the pattern. And initially we could be going and like copy pasting everything from LinkedIn in order to see those visuals. I think that there are going to be 150 or 200 pieces displayed and curated on this board to kind of trying to make sense of it with human brains. But the guy in my team built a script to just like capture every post that creator did in the last 3 months or something like that. And then it is being categorized what is the format. So usually like the image and text is the most popular format, sometimes video, but you have to be a little bit talented for video. It's not like, again, us going and discussing something in a typical dramatic triangle, but those are a little bit different. And yeah, she was just like complaining today how impossible the LinkedIn API is to crack, plus that they are super good in just like recognizing what is attempt of scraping. That being said, there are a lot of automation solutions that you could be using for business development and for sales, right? And oftentimes I hear people, and I kind of experienced this in November myself. So I was temporarily restricted from LinkedIn for 26 hours for sending more than, I don't know, 100 messages a day, thanks to some viral posts, which was super good until I got temporarily restricted. So it's always a little bit of like, it's a little bit of a tension there between what works and when do you want to get punished. And of course, I believe in genuine human relationships. This is how we met, Jason, and you have helped me tremendously throughout the year. You even prevented me to go and speak in a conference in London after we analyzed this as a case study. Tremendously grateful for that. But nevertheless, back to LinkedIn. So in my nature, I'm a very pragmatic person, right? And I would just love to figure it out what works, will work in a way that is coherent with my findings, and just like still have, let's say, hard nose of what am I not doing. So to be very tactical now, to be very specific, what I do now is I usually grow 100 to 150 per day. Not always, but ceteris paribus that I have like a post that reaches at least 10,000 people. I usually play on designs because I do think that I'm a better conceptual thinker than hook writer, but nevertheless, hooks are learning by doing, if you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, you will inevitably get better at this as well. And there are amazing tools that we have described previously that can help you out in that specific department. But nevertheless, it's something that I do for at least 2 hours a day. Plus, I do have my weekly content generation slot. So that's usually a Sunday. Unfortunately, I would love to keep it in the weekdays, but usually my attention is quite scattered. And then I need to really time to do some deep thinking and like physical drawing in a notebook. So I don't know, on Sundays I find peace of mind to do it, but it's not like a long time sustainable solution, but so far is what it is. But back to LinkedIn. So let's say that we are optimizing for either, let's say, audience growth, right? If you would be acting as a media, so if you would be optimizing for adoption, for the number of community members, aka followers, or we could be diving into the sales game, which is, I think, more interesting for the majority of businesses out there. And then, it's not a rocket science how to just run a social selling script. So you kind of envision a post, a viral post or a normal post that kind of resonates and talks well to your target audience. Luckily, somebody will respond to it that is actually equivalent of your target audience. And then you can start a conversation, but not conversation in a way, hi, I saw that you are really interested in corporate growth. Do you want to grab a 15-minute coffee chat with me? But something more clever. So for example, wow, I see that you work at Mercedes-Benz. How do you do product management at Mercedes-Benz? I would love to host you on my podcast or something like that, right? So right now, I know that it is totally outside the comfort zone for the majority of people, but the real sales conversations happen in DMs, not by the number of impressions or number of followers that you have. And I have been very, 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 very experimental in that department in Q4 as well. So in Q4, we managed to create 5 viral posts, the ones with more than 2,000 engagements, and they were just high value added assets in, let's say, strategic departments such as sales decks, then overall go-to-market strategy, and we were testing different automations, how to just do the filtering of who is an ICP, because I don't want to go and just send this message out to 10,000 people. I would, first of all, be temporarily restricted again. And this is not necessarily the communication load that I want to have in my business. So ran a couple of successful experiments down this department as well. If somebody's interested, I documented them on my Substack. I can totally send you a link. So don't hate the player, hate the game, and just double down on social selling is probably the safest tip that I can leave you with. Plus, try to observe what is already working and act accordingly to your ethic parameters and how do you want to present to yourself as a human to the world.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens in 2025. But
you.
That got lost in the echo cancellation, but I'm sure that you were insulting me in some way.
My bad.
Right, so obviously coming towards the end of our fireside chat today and almost ready to go and spend some time doing Christmas things. But before we do that, I do have to ask you for one prediction for 2025.
AI or die. I don't know what else to say. Like prompting is the new literacy. Please, people, learn how to do this. It's not going away.
So I agree that people should get good at this stuff 100%. My prediction for 2025 is that for all of the talk around product management is going to die and AI is going to kill it, and SDRs are going to die and AI is going to kill them, like all the different things that AI is going to kill, I remain fairly convinced that it's going to kill none of those things. I think AI is an incredibly important and useful tool. And even if like there's also the talk around like, well, whether it's even sort of peaking in capability terms, whatever the latest OpenAI announcement says, but like that it's kind of leveling off a little bit. Even if these tools stay exactly the same as they are today, there's still an incredible amount of use you can get out of them. And you should. You 100% should. It's going to make you better at your job. It's going to make you better at doing many of the things that, like, yeah, even the sort of the grunt work that you talked about earlier, but even sort of above and beyond grunt work. But I still think that there's a huge amount of value that product marketers, product managers, founders, all of these different people, like all of the people that are allegedly under threat, I think that the best of them and the best of us will still be just fine. I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. LLMs cannot make decisions for us, not in any defensible way. They can't really reason, and that's fine. We don't need them to reason. There's still plenty that they can do if we don't start to apply these impossible standards to them. Put a human in the loop. Like, that's the thing. Like, make sure that there's a human in the loop. Treat LLMs as inputs, not outputs, and use those inputs to kind of come up with your own best outputs is my kind of prediction. So I don't think that AI is going to kill anything in 2025, but I'm pretty sure that there's going to be lots of people that make money out of saying that are going to keep saying it, because that seems to be the trend.
It's not like more of the job trend, and I loved where we ended this because every trend has an anti-trend, and as AI is forcing us to be more productive, more like let's say efficient, there is need for human touch as well. So aka human contact becoming not a luxury, but you know what I mean, right? So a true differentiator, as you mentioned. But I definitely think that everybody should learn how to do the prompts because it's so much easier than coding, and it's just like awesome to explore this new world of opportunities.
Yeah, 100%. So you're going to Budapest for Christmas, or just like you're going to literally be there for Christmas, or?
Yes.
And what are you doing for New Year?
Unfortunately, one of my dogs is dead afraid of pyrotechnics. So we have to be at home. And we are kind of like compensated because Christmas is not like a little bit of there, but it's a rescue dog. It's probably a trauma that she experienced. So for the New Year's Eve, I am a dog sitter.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, that's the problem with having pets, right? It's 100% like changes your life, and it's obviously even more so with kids. Although I guess kids eventually get to the point where they can look after themselves. But
Yeah, they are happy that they are not spending the New Year's with you.
So how long are you actually switching off? Like, when do you come back full force? Like, is it in the new year, or are you going to be working? Have you already scheduled all your posts over the Christmas period? Like, what's a break look like for you?
So I will be active during holidays. It's already written. I will be online at least like half an hour a day before the lunch, so that I can deserve the lunch. Everything tastes sweeter if you work for it a little bit. But yeah, otherwise we'll probably take 2 or 3 days of complete technology, how to say, fast detox in a way, and we'll be back on approximately 3rd or 2nd of January. But I still have to do a lot of strategic work, so I won't be that vocal probably till the 6th of January. What about you?
So, technically speaking, today is the last day that I have any work commitments.
Awesome.
I do still have things. I'm doing an event in Berlin in mid-January, like a talk. So I need to start writing that talk. I've got Elena Werner coming on the podcast at the beginning of January, so I need to prepare for her because I want to make sure that that's a good episode as well. So everyone should be hopefully very excited to see me get some time with Elena. And I'll have a few bits and pieces. And you know what it's like, the kind of solopreneur. I mean, not that you're quite a solopreneur anymore, but like, sort of freelancer dream is like, well, fine, you get to have all this flexibility, but it also means that you kind of have to be flexible in return. Like there's always. But also, I've got like we talked about earlier, got the kind of the corporate training. I've got to start building some of those workshops and stuff out. So like, I'm going to be mainly off of the work, but like, there's going to be bits and pieces that I need to invest over the intervening period. And then, like you say, back in full force at the beginning of January and trying to do my best work as well as do the usual with regards to freelancers, the kind of constant prospecting and trying to get people to want to buy me. So it's going to be a mixture of light work, lots of eating, lots of drinking, playing games with the kids, and then back at it, back at the coalface in January.
By the way, can I produce a LinkedIn post as a Christmas gift for you? And let's measure if it's going to perform better.
That would be wonderful. Let's work out what to do. And I'll need to find something to do in reverse. It's a shame that some of your responses get lost in the echo cancellation. We must get you some headphones for Christmas next year. But
yes, because I cannot be all wired.
Well, there you go. Also, we did say that we would do a giveaway of your book, which I have here, the Go-to-Market Strategist. So I don't even know. Did you sign this for me? No, you didn't. I'm very, very offended. But anyway, I guess if I look at the who's attending, I don't even know if I can see who's attending. So what I'll do is I will put a link into the chat. No, not the chat, but the event. So anyone that's listening to this, anyone that's still watching, you can go to the chat in the event after this. I'll put a link in there, put your name in, and then by the end of the day, I'll run a wheel of names selectee thing and pick one lucky winner to get a book. I guess that'll be in the new year now. They get a book
together.
You what? Sorry.
We'll spend Christmas together. We will ship.
Yes. Well, it's a very good book. Obviously, you should go and listen to my previous podcast with Maja as well that we did back when the book came out, and I also did one on your podcast as well, didn't I? So people should listen to it, both of those. Hopefully it'll be more coherent, although I will say this is non-alcoholic beer, so I should still be pretty coherent. But
and this is mineral water, and I remember the first conversations we ever had that should not be public.
Well, that's like most of my conversations. Well, Maja, I wish you and the family, or the dogs and Mr. Voy, lovely and relaxing Christmas. Enjoy Budapest. I want to see lots of pictures of you doing cool things in different places around the world. And let's keep fighting a good fight into the new year.
Thank you so much, Jason, and to all of your community that welcomed my take of science to this go-to-market discipline so nicely. And thank you so much for your work, your support, your kindness, and you have been one hell of a friend to me in 2024. Hope to keep up the momentum, and that we are just like building upon these fundamentals that we established now. Happy holidays, and
happy holidays, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers. In the stream.
How many people were they?